I'm Mark Trombley with Collectors Platoon. We are here in Tonawanda, New York today to talk with Dennis of that toy shop, who's one of our proud sponsors for our inaugural show for the G.I. Joe Collectors Platoon. Dennis, thank you for taking the time to meet with us today.
Thank you for showing.
It's our pleasure. So you're going to give us a tour of the store,
sure,
and we're going to talk a little bit about what made you come up with the idea for that 80's toy shop.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we're about to go into that 80's toy shop. As you can see, as soon as you walk in, you're already greeted with Star Wars goodness. So let's take a look and see what the shop has to offer.
Thank you, Mark.
My pleasure, Dennis.
So this is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. All of this really started from me collecting Star Wars as a kid, and then starting it again in the 90s when the new movies came out and such. And for the longest time, all this stuff would be stored in boxes and whatnot. And so my dream was always to have just a wall full of Star Wars figures. So this basically covers 1995 all the way up to today, over 30 feet of just Star Wars. And when we opened, these pegs were full, so there's definitely a market even for the 90s stuff. We have cases of it in the back, so we will be restocking all this. All the bottom was filled with ships too, so it's been doing really well. Over here, you're going to be greeted with like our new arrivals. So we don't put it, when we say new arrivals, it's usually new merchandise, not vintage stuff per se, because we don't want people bumping it over, picking it up, whatnot. So even though we're a vintage toy store, we sell everything as far back as the 30s right up till today. The idea is it's an 80s theme store, but like I said, we cover everything from before and after that as well. So this will be all the newest stuff that we just got in usually that week, and then so this will consistently change week to week. After you pass the new arrival, usually the hottest stuff that's out right now, Godzilla, the movie that's coming out, we have that on this end cap. So a variety of week. The next big movie that comes out will be represented probably on this end cap. This wall here, opposite the figures, is all the play sets and ships. So essentially this whole aisle is just all Star Wars. So it's basically a Star Wars mini heaven here. As you go this way, over here we have an end cap that's all Indiana Jones. Again, this is newer stuff. The vintage stuff will be behind the counter and in display cases. We have a small section of wrestling. Most of this covers vintage and modern. We don't buy too much of the new stuff, but when we get the LJNs, the Hasbros, that kind of stuff, that flies usually within days of posting. Over here we have more kiddie stuff. As we get back here, we kind of call this our kiddie corner. This way when parents come in with their kids, there's stuff for them to put their hands on without touching the bigger stuff. So as we come back this way, here we have He-Man, again, more classics and 2000 stuff, vintage stuff, again, would be behind the counter. We have some DC, Batman, retro and new. As you come this way, we have a small section devoted just Hot Wheels, Matchbox, cars, promo cars, a few models. We're still kind of working on that. We have a Transformer section that runs vintage to modern. We have some Japanese as well. Power Rangers, vintage Ghostbusters, Aliens and Predator. On this side we have stuff from Battlestar Galactica, Willow, Pirates of the Caribbean, some good 70s vintage toys here as well. Mego is back, so we have a lot of modern Mego out. This end cap's all new Mego product that's no longer Target exclusives. So over here, this rack here is dedicated to new Star Wars products. So we have Black Series figures and vehicles exclusives, and then as you come around this way, we have the vintage collection. These are all the newest waves of Solo, vintage, and we have customs on the bottom as well. On the opposite side, we have Marvel Legends. We also have a rack over there dedicated to that. We actually usually build a figure, so everyone can see that, and then sell them loose without the parts, or you can buy them complete. The front of the store is dedicated to Pops. All of our pops are pretty much priced the same. We don't usually deal with super chases or anything, so most of the store exclusives and normal chases are pretty much priced the same as everything else. $11.99 for your basic pops, with just a few exceptions, obviously, with the bigger ones. But we try to stay current with those, just what fits the theme of the store, and then everything else just comes in from customers. We don't really buy a ton of those wholesale. And then this wall here is more 90s, I guess you could say. Not a whole lot of 80s on this wall. 90s is coming into its own. It's already 25 years. And you can consider Batman, Nightmare Before Christmas, Jurassic Park, all that stuff is all 25 years plus, and it's all 90s. Action figures and assortments. So in the display cases, that's where you're going to find more of the vintage stuff. So that particular case focuses on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We have assortment of other things in there as well from the 80s. The Flintstone stuff that's from Spain. Those are actually rare Harry and the Henderson figures. Really tough to find those still on the card because they were so heavy. On the case we have something new. That's the Jabba the Hutt sail barge from Return of the Jedi. That was a Kickstarter from a year ago. Just came out a couple months ago. It's almost tripled in value since it was pre-sold. But it's an awesome display piece for sure. And then at the front of the store, again, in the cases, you'll find more vintage stuff. We do have to restock from a couple of conventions we just did, but you'll find some high-end graded stuff from various grading companies. We're also a submission site for all the major grading companies. We can help you, get your items graded if you find it's a bit difficult for yourself to do online. We have some rare prototypes in here, some Kenner employed stuff. On the wall is where you're going to find a lot of the actual vintage Star Wars figures. The modern stuff you see up there is actually all autographed. Those are all autographed at Celebrations, actually.
So Dennis, this place is absolutely crazy, insane good. Every time I'm down here, I always leave with a bag or two or three or four. But what was your inspiration in coming up with the idea of that 80s toy shop?
So even though we're still under a year open, we opened at the end of summer last year. So the thought was probably implanted in my head about 20 years ago when we first had our kids, and I just was a better choice to be a stay-at-home parent. So bringing up my first three kids, I started buying and selling online and discovered eBay. And so I was buying and selling wholesale the newer Star Wars and using that money to actually buy vintage stuff for myself and my personal collection. And I had to come up with an eBay name at that time, and this was actually right when the new, or when that 70s show came out.
Yeah, I remember that show.
And it really just, I don't know, for whatever reason, the two just kind of clicked. There was also a toy magazine at the time called Toy Shop Magazine, which I used to use religiously before the internet. And it said Toy Shop with an exclamation at the end of it. So somehow just the two came together. Like I said, that show came out in '98. I created my eBay account in '99, and that 80s Toy Shop was born in theory at that point. So it was just strictly an eBay account for a while. And again, it was just secondary income so I could stay at home, raise three kids. Once they got older, that kind of stopped, and I still had a dream of opening up a shop, but the reality of raising three kids and doing something that had high risk just wasn't in the cards. So up until last year, once my third kid is graduating this year, actually. One's already moved out, one's planning to move out. It just seemed like the right time to do it.
Okay, so Dennis, being an expert in this field, what would be some tips that you would be willing to share with someone that might be looking to get into the hobby for the first time, whether it's vintage or modern?
So there's a couple schools of thought when it comes to getting into the hobby as a vintage collector versus maybe a modern collector. With modern collecting, I feel like you should just buy what you like and not try to be a completist, like come up with a budget that you can stay within and just focus on what you like versus just like trying to buy every single figure of something, because that'll leave you money to continue to buy the things that you like versus
Absolutely.
running out of money to buy those items and you're stuck with stuff that you may not want. As far as vintage goes, and again, it varies from toy line to toy line, but like G.I. Joe, for example, or Star Wars, a lot of the sealed box items are pretty pricey right now. So there is a school of thought that if you want to go down that rabbit hole and eventually have all those pieces, then you should go after the more hard to get, expensive ones, because they're pretty much never going to go down. They're always going to retain their value or climb in value. And again, I know that just from over the 20 years of collecting, it's always something where, 20 years ago I should have bought that when I had a chance, but I thought it was too expensive. Now it's 10 times more. The other one is, the other school of thought, like I said, like for Joe's and Star Wars, it would be great examples, is buy as many of the loose figures and open box items, so you can build your collection a lot faster, and then slowly move into the the sealed stuff if that's what you want to do, and then you can sell off as you upgrade and go along and use that to put towards the hobby. A lot of people feel like you're double spending when you do that, but you're also staying within your means, and you don't want to, like I said, you should really have a budget in mind that's just devoted to your hobby and try not to go over that budget. So if you can do it where you can buy the higher end stuff, go for it. If not, it's still fun to just buy, what you can afford, stay within it, and be patient as you go.
Absolutely. Okay, so Dennis, I've got a monster box of hobby toys from my childhood. I'm looking to sell it. Do you buy and sell?
Absolutely. So even though the name, that 80's Toy Shop, implies that we only deal with that, it's really just the theme of the store. We buy, sell, and trade toys from as far back as the 30s right up until today. A nice little example might be this guy right here. This is a tin toy, wind-up toy from 1930 that actually still works. So when stuff like this comes in and I think it's neat, yeah, I'll buy it. But then we also buy the newest stuff that comes out. We don't go to Target or Walmart and buy exclusives and resell them here, but we will trade for that kind of stuff. But primarily, as the store name indicates, our top 5 right now would probably be Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Vintage Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and what am I leaving out here? Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and help me out here.
Marvel?
No, not Marvel.
And that's a mystery for everyone to figure out.
He-Man. There you go, He-Man. How could I forget that? That's like been really hot lately. So.
They are the master of the universe.
Yeah, over the holidays, the He-Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff, the loose stuff, as I was telling you before, like parents come in with their kids and they're looking for, mint and box sealed stuff. They buy all the loose stuff, the vintage stuff that they play with as kids for their kids now, so it's great.
So, as someone, let's say I'm someone new to the hobby and I hear the term MOC.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
MOC, mint on card. So that would be like, just for example here, that would be a figure that's still sealed on the card. So the nickname for that is MOC or MOC. Again, those are going to have a little more value than something loose, especially when you're talking about vintage stuff. The price discrepancy there is huge. Modern stuff, it's pretty close. If you get a modern Black Series Star Wars figure,
That's quite a nice piece.
yes, it is. The detail and the articulation involved in all the new stuff, like the Marvel Legends, the Star Wars Black Series, it's almost a crime not to open and display these. They've made them in boxes that you can open and actually put them back in later if you want to save the boxes. And again, I find, unless it's a rare, limited number, piece, you're not going to see a big price differential on a loose mint figure versus a box figure for modern stuff. So open those toys, enjoy them, and play with them. The vintage stuff, not so much. You don't want to open one of those. Once you open it, you're taking something off the market forever, and that number is just continuing to go down as time goes by.
So Dennis, I want to thank you, especially for your support for our inaugural show for the Collectors Platoon, G.I. Joe show that we had, and your continued support for our upcoming November 3rd show, which is going to be in the same location at the Royal Canadian Legion 101 on Lakeshore Boulevard.
Sure.
But what drew you to want to support the Collectors Platoon?
Well, I mean, this is your first show, so there wasn't really a whole lot to go by. You had to sell it to me, so other than you twisting my arm and not leaving my store until I agreed to it.
Yeah, that's all right.
Just kidding. I just like what you had to say, what your vision is for this show. I liked being a part of the process the whole time, even though I couldn't participate in it. You still made me feel a part of that process. And you know, anything in the hobby with good intentions, it's not about money or anything like that. I think is great, and we should support each other for that. And like I said, I think it's great that you're helping me out here. Gives me another excuse to go north and visit my friends up in Canada, and free T-shirt, of course. I mean, who can complain about that? With your store name on the back.
Look at that.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, from what I've seen from the first show and everything that you have, and I know I can't give anything away right now, but you have some really exciting things planned for the next show. I'll continue to support that as long as it continues to be about the hobby and the good part of the hobby, and I'm all for it. So
Absolutely. Again, everything that you've done for us to get us to this stage that we now have a website, that we're now doing videos for everyone, giving them tips. You mentioned that you're also going to be contributing some articles for our site, and you said you wanted to give a door prize, or not a door prize, but a video prize for whoever views this website.
sure.
And that was
Love to.
one of these two figures?
No, actually both.
Both?
So, yeah, I mean, these aren't like Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow vintage figures, but they're still G.I. Joe, and something fun to add to your collection, and they're free, so can't complain about that.
No, that's
Thank
extremely
you.
generous of you.
Oh, no worries.
So I want to once again thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks for
And
coming on down.
This is just shows everybody out there the importance of the hobby. You can do all of your buying online, but you should be going to support your local hobbyist shops, because here you get to be face to face, you get to handle the merchandise, you get to learn from their expertise, and you start to build that friendly relationship, which is something you can't do digitally. Thanks for joining us on Collectors Platoon. We'll see you next time.